on this, the video and the response or lack thereof from the Biden administration. Let's bring in Florida Congresswoman and member of the House Homeland Security Committee, Cammack. Thank you very much for joining us, Congresswoman. I want to bring this back up because I think this is really what folks have a huge problem with. The reaction from the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, yesterday, refusing to condemn this video from Iran's supreme leader that clearly depicts a drone strike killing President Trump. Listen to her response and give us your take.
I have a question about a video that Iran's supreme leader posted on his website that appears to show a robot conducting a drone strike killing the former president at his Mar-a-Lago golf club. Is the intelligence community assessing this threat and working with former President Trump to offer protection of any kind?
I'm not going to speak to the work of our intelligence community. Obviously, the kind of rhetoric or video from the Supreme Leader is something that we've seen, offensive rhetoric and behavior in the past. But I'm not going to speak to more specifics of internal discussions.
Your thoughts?
This is just really frustrating because when you see a video like that with what Iran's supreme leader put out, it's not just offensive, it's dangerous, it's violent. And you would hope that we could maybe look past this as Republicans versus Democrats. This is an American issue that they need to be looking at this through this lens. And you have to ask yourself, is this administration, the Biden administration, are they so obsessed with Trump? Are they so hate-filled and vitriolic towards President Trump and his supporters that they can't even bring themselves to condemn a violent and dangerous video from Iran's supreme leader, who would love nothing more than to see America as a whole, Republicans and Democrats equally, fall flat on their face? That speaks volumes of this administration. And you wonder why their approval ratings are so low. It's because they are so one-sided. They are so vindictive, and their violence, the silence that they're exhibiting right now, it is dangerous. And I pray.
But they're outraged over "Let's Go Brandon."
Yeah. Well, even President Biden himself says "Let's go Biden," so we'll just leave that one there. But that's just it. The silence is deafening coming out of the White House on this.
It wasn't silent yesterday, at least the country wasn't. Small businesses, in any business, I think, good news coming out of the Supreme Court. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. I know you've opposed the OSHA mandate for a very long time. Wanted to get your thoughts.
Well, I think we've all recognized from the very beginning that this OSHA mandate is and will forever be unconstitutional. This is a decision that an individual has the right to make for themselves and for their families, and no government bureaucrat anywhere can ever mandate that someone get the jab.
But Congresswoman, with all due respect, that's really, unless I'm misunderstanding it, not what they're saying. They're saying OSHA can't decide that. Like if Congress decided they could, or if the state, we know you're in Florida, so Governor DeSantis is not going to say do it. But if you're in California, or if you're in New York, you're somewhere else, it is possible the government could make you put that in your arm, unless I'm misunderstanding it and you look at it differently.
Well, when you look at how this was filed and the very narrow scope of what it was brought, the lawsuit that was brought by Heritage Action and several of the groups that were fighting this mandate, it was a very narrow question that they were asking the Supreme Court to end. Does OSHA have the authority to execute on and uphold this mandate through the executive branch and the administration? They do not. Unfortunately, we are a little disappointed in the CMS ruling for healthcare workers, but in a state like Florida, obviously a big sigh of relief for our big employers. It's a win. This was 80 million jobs that were on the line. And unfortunately, we're seeing that healthcare workers, while they were deemed yesterday's heroes, today they're being dubbed the villains who refuse to comply with this administration. But I think this is going to be an ongoing discussion. There's going to continue to be legislation. And again, Congress has never passed any legislation and signed into law anything mandating that people have to get the vaccine. Right. And I think that's important. This is a mandate, not a law. And that's a very, very clear distinction.
Do you foresee the Biden administration trying a different tactic since OSHA didn't work?
Absolutely. We've seen that the Biden administration wants to get its way by any means possible. And who knows, Congress could be their next step.
Yeah.
But they've had a very disappointing track record to date. They have failed at getting most of their agenda across the finish line because, quite frankly, it is a politically driven agenda that Americans collectively have said, no, we don't want this, which is why it has failed repeatedly, stopping in the Senate despite having the House and the Senate.
Just very quickly, I know your husband, I believe, has been a public servant, a first responder. Your thoughts on the Supreme Court ruling that actually federally funded healthcare facilities can mandate this?
It's disappointing. As I said, we've seen for the last 2 years, our frontline workers, our nurses, our firefighters, our medics, our law enforcement officers, they have all been dubbed heroes. Right. And they were taking the calls and doing the responses when there was no vaccine, when we were short on PPE, when data was very shoddy. They were out there doing the work that very few people were willing to do. And everyone lauded them as heroes. But now today, if they refuse to comply with this unconstitutional mandate, they're dubbed a villain. Here in my own hometown of Gainesville, we've been fighting this for our frontline workers, and it's really disappointing. I think you're going to see a push on the exemption side and really making sure that there's a proper appeals process, because we've seen through the military and through frontline workers that a lot of the religious exemptions that are completely valid and 100% constitutional, they're being shot down. So we need to make sure we're watching very carefully to protect the First Amendment rights of our
Congresswoman Cammack, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You as well.